Welcome back to Actual Proper Podcast. I'm Reece Farkash, and you're Twila, Amato, and you are
Am
the
I
listener.
though? Are we though? I don't know anymore.
Who knows who we are anymore? But yeah, we had other things to talk about
Fun things, I hope.
on this week's episode, such as we're going to be talking a little bit movies, we're going to be talking a little bit retail.
Okay.
Jeez, never thought that would be happening. A little bit of television or streaming, and a little bit of fun activities
Okay.
or learning,
All right.
education.
Education.
So where do we want to start off? I'll leave it up to you.
Well, this is a very you-centric episode, though, which
That's
I think
true. It is very me-centric.
Yeah,
episode.
I think we should leave it up to you.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, you pick.
I want to start off with what I started off with originally, because this is the second time we've had to record this episode because our audio actually got absolutely eviscerated
Technical
last
difficulties.
time we tried to record. So this is the
we
second.
Had technical
This is like our
difficulties.
second take for this episode. So I think it's going to be so much more concise this episode. Well, I'm gonna try to make it
make it
anyway.
concise.
So talking point number one is the New Mutants movie, which, if you're not familiar, the mutants are, they're the X-Men, run by Sony, and they're Marvel characters, but they're kind of like,
for some reason, they're not owned by Marvel or
they're
something.
not owned by Marvel. They're owned by Sony, as well as Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four. That's why their movies have never crossed over, except for Spider-Man, which recently, within the past 5 years or 4 years, I don't remember when
It's just very
Civil
bizarre.
War came out. It 2016, I think. Anyway,
I don't remember.
It was finally allowed to cross over, and then, but Sony has been, using so much of the mutants in media with the X-Men series. You had Days of Future Past to really kind of kick it back off again into like this like the 2010s era truly of the X-Men films. Then you had X-Men, or you had First Class, then Days of Future Past, then you had your Logan, Deadpool 2, you had X-Men Apocalypse and X-Men Dark Phoenix, and then there was another, this was a spin-off of X-Men, kind of like how Deadpool is a spin-off of X-Men.
Okay.
Because his origin is so closely, and his appearances throughout comics are so closely tied with X-Men, you see X-Men appear in his films, like Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead. They are mutants in X-Men. And to the New Mutants is kind of like this, a similar vein. They're like a separate team of X-Men. They're like a spin-off of the original team. And they debuted a long time ago. And apparently Alexa has no opinion of them. That sucks. I don't know why she just said that. She's like, I don't have an opinion. Wasn't asking you. This was a statement. Anyway,
Okay.
So this movie has been worked on for so long. It has stars in it. It has Jonathan from Stranger Things, the older brother who's dating Nancy. It has Maisie Williams, who
from Game of Thrones,
Arya Stark. And it's funny because there's an Arya Stark in X-Men, and there was also
Sansa.
Like Sansa Stark.
Yeah.
But she's also in X-Men as
Right,
Jean
right.
Grey.
Yeah.
Grey.
Dark Phoenix.
I can't remember her name for some reason.
Sophie Turner.
Sophie Turner, yes. So both the Stark sisters are
right.
main
Are in the franchise. Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah, dude, they're freaking killing it.
They're good
but
actresses.
Also Jonathan Byers.
Right.
To get in there. But anyway, so this movie, there was a trailer put together because it was being made in 2017, so 3 years ago now.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
And a trailer was put out. Everyone's like, whoa, this is kind of hype. It's like a really cool thing because there's so many superhero movies out there these days. Like, originally superhero movies were kind of a genre. They were a genre, but now they're so big, there's subgenres spitting out of them. So New Mutants was going to be a horror superhero movie.
Oh boy.
Very interesting. I think a lot of the fans were kind of waiting to see kind of like what that would be
What
like.
that would look like,
And
yeah, for sure.
you know, this was
That's
supposed to be the first one, but it's with Doctor Strange 2 eventually coming out. That was also called a horror movie, even though it's a superhero movie. In the end, it's Disney. I really doubt it's going to be a horror movie.
I don't know how well that would fly, really.
With Marvel and Disney, I just extremely doubt it. If you have anything superheroes, you need to market the crap out of that to kids. You can't have them in the theaters.
Okay.
Theaters for a horror movie.
Right.
Anyway,
yeah, back to New Mutants.
So worked on in 2017, trailer released, hype was building, and then it disappeared from the face of the earth. Like, everyone was like, what the heck is going on? What the heck is going on? That is my turn for a notification. Sorry. And then, like, some stuff started coming out that they were doing reshoots, which is totally normal and expected for
a movie.
You know, movies. Reshoots are the name of the game. And you know, it's all the information out there started to get more confused as it kind of came out. Everyone's like, when the heck is this movie going to come out now? Because originally it had a release of 2018 in April, and then it was delayed to February 22nd, almost a year later in 2019.
Oh no, but that's like when the big Rona happened.
To avoid Deadpool 2.
Right.
Because that was another property that they owned, another superhero movie. So they like push it back. And then it was pushed back to avoid Dark Phoenix as well, because it had a release date of August 2nd of 2019. So that's half a year. It was pushed back again, and then it was delayed until April 3rd of this year, 2020.
Oh, I see.
But that was already
a
few months ago.
It's 2020. I for some reason I still think it's like 2019. So when you said that it was supposed to be released on February 22nd, 2019, I was like, oh, that's when coronavirus happened. I'm like, no, it's 2020.
So yeah, April was a few months ago. Do we have New Mutants?
No.
Resounding no. You know, speculation was from that, or was of that, because Disney had bought Fox. Or sorry, have I been saying Sony this whole time when I meant Fox? Oh no. I've made the ultimate sin. Or is Fox owned by Sony? Now I'm confused.
I have no idea what you're talking about anyways, so
we'll
I can't fact check you.
From now on. Who cares? It's all big companies, and they're not Disney. That's all that matters. Eventually they'll be Disney. Everything will be Disney. But for now, it doesn't matter what they are. And then a lot of speculation was that it was just going to be released on Disney Plus.
Right.
Because maybe the studio didn't have faith in the movie, that they would just dump it on a streaming platform when it came out to promote it, like they did with Mandalorian, which was massive success.
Right.
Ended up never happening, because it was delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But they weren't going to release it on their streaming service, which would have been amazing for them with the Corona content. But finally, it's been rescheduled to actually release the film in August 28th of 2020, which is the cherry on top, because I've been following this saga for like 3 years now. For it to have
released
a release date on my birthday is so funny. I just feel like I'm so vindicated in how like much I've been paying attention to this stupid release of this movie that's probably not going to be that great, but ultimately it's going to be a thing that I probably do on my birthday.
Yeah, so is that the plan, is we're going to see this movie on your birthday?
I would love to try, but if movie theaters are open by that.
Oh, that's right.
I actually think that they might be open, but with...
Yeah, I think so, but with restrictions. Yeah. And mask requirements, I believe.
Yeah. So assuming that they still have seating restrictions in a few months...
I guess you're seeing it alone then.
Like, if we could get even 100 feet from the movie, because everyone's going to want to be going to the movies too, and like it is a pretty big movie.
Ugh,
you know,
true.
Probably never see it. But I just think that the whole saga is so funny. Just what a spectacular failure this whole thing. The New Mutants.
Yikes.
Gosh darn.
All right.
That's ultimately
that was
where I
a
was going
saga.
with that. Like, this is like the most cursed movie ever, and I just want to see it, even if it's going to be bad. Because
I think there's just a lot of things
I
that
put
happened
so much time and effort to following it.
without, like, obviously that are out of their control, and it's all unfortunate.
Most of it was their control, though.
Right. I guess.
By and large, only one thing happened. Two things happened.
Right.
The
that were not
COVID-19 and then Disney buying the Fox
That's
studio.
true, I guess.
Oh my god! But that was still
well.
like both of those happened in 2020 this year when it was supposed to be released 2 years before.
Right.
Like,
I see.
What? What is happening?
So it was all
How
their
do
fault.
you screw up a movie like this with big stars at the time?
Mm-hmm.
And you just like throw it in the garbage. It's so funny. But again, I do want to see it.
Anyway,
Hopefully it comes out. I don't want it to come out in theaters though. It should have come out on. I would have got Disney Plus for a month to see it. Okay, so now that whole thing is out of the way and I can finally breathe again, we have a blessing for you if you're looking for anything in apparel. Our favorite place to go to these days. And this is not a sponsored episode or anything.
oh, I wish it was.
I wish it was.
It would have been great.
Get that Mark's Work Warehouse sponsorship. That would be
Ooh.
incredible. That's,
Sponsor us.
Mark's Work Warehouse has been such an interesting, growing, changing, adapting business.
You know what? It's very bizarre, I guess. I never really paid attention to Mark's Work Warehouse just because, I mean, I'd always been under the impression that it's for, for construction dudes, for
and rightfully so.
middle-aged dudes, and so it was never really my place to go to. It's just not the makeup store, or to me, it just didn't seem like they'd sell things that would cater to me, like a young, small girl, like who would go into that. And so I was very surprised to know that they actually, at least these days, right, like the last few years, they cater to they actually do cater to everybody, and not just, again, the construction workers, and I was just like, whoa,
yeah, like
very surprised.
The burly men of the world.
Exactly. It's not just about the burly men, it's actually
not
for
just
everybody.
like plaid and coveralls and that kind of stuff.
Well, mind you, they do
lit.
have a lot of that,
They
but
do
that's
have
because
a good selection.
but that's because that's how they started out, right?
Yeah, and it's not it's a big focus, but there's just so much more to it than that.
But that's actually the other thing too, is I think they've also rebranded, so they used to be called Mark's Work Warehouse. Now they're just called Mark's.
That's a good point. I've never thought of that.
And that's, I think, part of that turnaround. And I've never really noticed that until much recently whenever we pass by it or anything like that. And again, the reason for this being, when I met you, you kept on raving about Mark's Work Warehouse and how you got all your stuff there, and I'm like, okay, who buys a cardigan from a construction store?
Right, and ultimately I was forced to do that because I had the same opinion, why would I shop there? But then, because we were living in such a small town, and that was the only
at
place
that
to
time,
get clothes,
yeah, right.
Besides driving for 4 hours, so I went in and checked it out, and I was like, this is a lot of good stuff, well made, but also
fashionable,
good,
which is surprising. Again,
it's so surprising
because construction wear isn't really made to be fashionable. It's made to be functional, which is totally fair. And so, so Reece was like, yeah, this cute cardigan is from there, and I'm like, cardigan from Mark's Work Warehouse? That's BS, dude. And so he's like, okay, well, one day we're gonna check it out. And so, the past little while, obviously, your clothes just wear and tear on them, they get old and stuff. So I was just like, okay, well, I'm in need of a bunch of new things. Can we go? Well. And we might as well.
Let's go to the mall.
So the mall recently opened up, and there were stores that opened up, and that included Mark's. And so we went and picked up a few things.
You go to the mall, which is really funny, and if you go to it like not at a busy time, like when we went to, like I think it was like a weeknight or something like that.
No, it was actually a weekend.
That was recently, but that I'm talking about like the first time. Anyway, each time we've been there,
it's been highly popular. It's wildly popular.
It's the most popular store in the entire mall, which is so bizarre because, like, you know,
there's so many lineups.
Best Buy, you have, you know, all these trendy hip stores, Sephora, even one of the few lineups in the mall, and by far the biggest, is always Mark's Work Warehouse.
Always Mark's.
So bizarre, but it's trending so hard.
Yeah, and I guess people are just finding out how good the stuff is, and that it can cater to everybody. Because I mean, they even had like really, really high quality like, leggings and yoga pants, and I was like, well, I'm gonna go back and get that because that's kind of cute, and I'd totally buy that.
They have a lot of really, really good stuff.
So I mean, obviously right now I can't really do much shopping. I'm broke. COVID-19, thanks. But you know, once I guess things pick back up, I would love to get more, I guess, like not necessarily essential items, but just like a little more on the luxury side, I guess, for me. So
it's really cool to see, I guess,
the turnaround
of work that's been put into, and the amount of work and good ideas from you know, the people working in marketing to the people who source items, and
for sure
even the people who build the stores, because like the renovations, like it doesn't look like Mark's Work Warehouses typically do. It's like it's like trendy and cool, and
it's well lit.
You know, it's just such a success story of that, because companies, especially bigger ones, they are just so incredibly massively out of touch, and it seems like whatever they try almost always fails. But you know, some good ideas went into making Mark's Work Warehouse a success, and they did it, and that's just, you know, kudos to them. That's awesome. It's not an easy task.
I wonder what it was inspired by, though. Like, sometimes maybe I think that maybe what inspired that was obviously, you know, its branches in smaller rural towns, like say Campbell River, where we were, because there's just not a lot of stores, there's not a lot of selection, and people need to be able to go into a store and be able to get what they need without having to drive like 40 minutes to an hour or a weekend. Exactly. And so, and I think that might have been that might probably played to into them kind of turning around and being like, okay, well, we're not just serving, you know, your tradesmen and your burly dudes, like we're serving everybody.
And I think
that and I think that might have played
people as well. Not just like older people or people, you know, like us in our mid-20s to late 20s. Like it caters, it does a very good job. See a lot of young faces in there. Anyway, Mark's Work Warehouse.
Non sequitur. This episode has no like connecting dots
at all. So it's just like hard pivots every time. But I think it's really cool, like things that bring to attention that a lot of people would not think about. You know,
buy stuff from Mark's.
Anyway,
it's a good place.
Speaking of movies from 8 minutes ago. Speaking of streaming into Disney Plus, pivoting over to Netflix with their release of their new comedy Space Force, which was about like 2 weeks ago. I finally finished it.
Oh, you finished
it? It's amazing. It's such a good show. It's very topical as well, which you don't see a lot of that topical programming in modern television, because
Schitt's Creek is pretty topical.
No, not real. No, I wouldn't say that, because it still follows a show formula with like nothing that happens in the world is reflected in the show.
I mean, I see. Okay.
Is what I mean.
Okay.
Like, topical is in keeping up with current events, because, you know, Space Force was just brought in as a branch of the U.S. military.
In the show
produced
or
an entire
in the entire
show. The world.
Oh. Wait,
what?
This is something that's happened?
How do you not know about this?
Well, I don't care about the United States, so
it was massive world news.
It was
the biggest thing to happen.
Like
in
I said, I don't give a
2019.
rat's ass about the
Whatever.
United States and United States news at all, unless it has like, I guess, direct repercussions for like the entire like of North America or Canada. But usually,
Right.
I don't know. I just
But this is
don't
the first
care.
time a world military has put space as a priority, which is the final frontier.
Okay.
Okay. And whoever controls space controls the world.
Bullshit.
It's very
I'm
much
kidding.
true. When you can control the world's satellites, you control the world.
Yeah. Okay.
Every facet of it. And if someone wants to try leaving the world and you have an established military in space,
I don't think that's going to be the U.S. though.
No. That's not ultimately what it's going to be.
Right.
Because
In
that's
reality,
such an impossible Herculean task.
Yeah.
Essentially, it was just a PR stunt to make a space force, but still funny nonetheless. And I clowned on them so much on my radio show, and it was a good source of content. Space Force. It's ridiculous ultimately, but it made world interest because it's the first time military is putting a priority on space, because before the domain of space was kind of overseen by the Air Force.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it's not a big change. It was just for posturing and PR from America. That's all it was ultimately. But anyway,
wow,
this
that
show,
was dumb.
You know, all that only happened in the past couple of years.
So dumb.
And they produced an entire show, got it cast, got it made, filmed in under that time. It's a quality show.
Right.
And that's not easy. It's such a massive effort that's gone into it, and you can tell a lot of love has gone into it. The casting's amazing, of course. Steve Carell is
he's pretty A+.
He's the lead.
Yeah.
As Mark Naird.
Naird.
And he does an amazing job. If you like The Office and want to compare it to that, it's very different than his character in The Office.
Obviously, yeah. Because he's a little more, from what I've seen of this so far, which is like the first episode, is he's actually a fairly competent boss.
Right. I'm talking more about how the show is designed, though. It's not similar to The Office.
Yeah.
You know, everyone knows.
Well, you said his character on The Office.
Sorry. Yeah, I guess I misspoke. This show's not really similar to The Office. Everyone knows kind of like what The Office is, and it kind of like made its own genre of TV shows in the same sense. This is more similar to his other works in like Get Smart, the movie, which is an amazing movie, and it features a lot of his friends in it, and a lot of up and comers.
He's one of the producers here too, right? For the show, I believe.
Right. I assume so.
Yeah.
And I do believe so. And yeah, it's a little more in the vein of Get Smart, which is also a great movie that you should watch. Steve Carell, Anne Hathaway, and early Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
I think I made you watch it a while ago. It's a good movie though. I think I fell asleep. I've seen it like hundreds of times. It doesn't matter. And I just wanted to say, Space Force.
Would highly recommend.
Good job. So this has been one ultimately horrendous job in New Mutants, one good job Works Warehouse, another good job Space Force.
I think that's a good note to end on. Is a positive.
I think a 2/3 net positive is pretty good.
I think that's really good in light of all the bad things that have happened so far.
I'm not used to talking that much on this podcast.
Yeah,
it's like a half an hour straight of just me.
You talk a lot in real life though.
Yeah. This podcast though.
But yeah, no, can you believe it? We are halfway through this year, June, and here's to hoping that things start looking up from here on out.
We're getting close to 2020. Oh no, wait, no, we're not.
What?
I was gonna say 2020, but that's never gonna happen because there's not 20 months.
Yeah.
Checkmate. Myself. Anyway, we'll catch you guys next time. Have a good one.
Bye. Take care.